What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. I had an amazing conversation with Arnold Beekes. He deals with mental fitness, so I really wanted to dive in and see what he's got going on. As you get older, sometimes you start to lose it. You start to forget why you walked in rooms. He's going to give you some tips to help you remember and make mental fitness a part of your routine. And before we get to that, make sure you hit that like button. If it's your first time to our show, hit the subscribe so you're notified every time a show drops. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Coach Clarence is an entrepreneur, financial expert, and passionate about helping people build and market their business. He has a creative flair for thinking outside the box and is always looking for the positive side of life. Now, here's Coach Clarence.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Coach's Corner. And today, I have in studio with me Arnold Beekes. I think I said that right. He'll correct me again. I always chop names up. What I like about Arnold, he has a really cool topic, which a lot of us, when we're over 40, we need. And that's we start to lose some of the functionality of our brain for different reasons. So I was really excited to talk about his concepts about brain fitness. On this show, we talk a lot about physical fitness. So I wanted to talk about brain fitness because that runs the body. So, Arnold, go ahead and tell everybody who you are and how you got to where you are now.
Yes, I'm Arnold Beekes. I'm born in the Netherlands, but currently living in Romania. And well, the way you explained it is actually an excellent intro because everybody understands that you need to work on your body fitness, and it doesn't matter so much what you do. Like on your shirt, you do jiu-jitsu, or you go to the gym, or you play tennis, or you go swimming, or you go walk your dog. It's like people understand that you need to exercise to keep your body in shape and functioning as you grow older, because it's not only over 40, it's over 30 already. Both your body and your brain start to decline. And first that goes slowly and you don't recognize it, but the older you get, the faster it goes. And that is true for body and brain. So people are training the brain, but they are not keeping training. Or sorry, they train the body by all these things like exercise and movement, but they do nothing for the brain. So that is the reason that I came up, is like, wouldn't it be nice if everywhere all over the world we have both body fitness and brain fitness?
Yes. Why do you think it's catching on so well?
Because it's linked to mental health. Mental health is the market called, but I think it's an incorrect name. Just like healthcare is an incorrect name. It's not healthcare, it's sick care.
Interesting.
The same logic applies to mental health. It's got nothing to do with mental health. It's got everything to do with mental disease, mental illness, and treating people for that.
Yes, sir.
So if you assume that healthcare, or better, sick care, is mostly related to your body, unless you drop on your head, but the mental health or mental illness, mental disease, is focused on the inside, your emotions, the things which are happening in your brain. There is no complementary for that. And that is why I came up with that. And your question is, why is it growing? Because unfortunately, mental illness is, to my opinion, the largest epidemic in the world. There is a recent study that shows that only for depression and anxiety, there are 12 billion workdays lost. And it cost the economy $1 trillion. So It affects many, many people, young, middle-aged, old. It creates huge problems. So that is why there is an urgent need, I think, for prevention and optimization.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Kind of briefly describe some of the causes of mental illness. We have general definitions, but kind of tell us what are some of the main causes?
I would say the main cause is this little thing.
I'm in trouble.
It's not only the device but it's also in combination with social media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that is a main problem. Another problem, what we see is the pathologizing of emotions. Like if you, well, you see it a lot with children. If the child is a little bit busy, he's got a lot of energy, they say, "Oh, we got to go to the doctor. He's got ADHD." Huh? If you get some problems at your work and you're sad, or you get depression, you need to take medicine and whatever. Yeah, so we we like to have normal emotions or normal physical thing. We say,
Mhm.
you're sick. Yeah, you're mental illness. So
Right.
that is one part. And another part is, which has a huge influence, is ultra processed food.
Ah,
Yeah, because those really, really impact you. So it's yeah, it's been proven that they affect your, yeah, what would I say? Basically every part in your body and in your brain. So those are things which are really, really needed. And also what I would say is the increased conditioning targeted from all kinds of ways to influence you. Yeah? Let me give what people think as a simple example, um, the electromagnetic radiation,
mhm.
which goes from Wi-Fi, which goes from your mobile phones, which goes from 5G, 4G towers, which comes from your microwave, which comes from your TV, which comes from your PC. All of those things have an influence on your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and it's intentionally. A lot of the stuff is intentionally targeting you, and that has a huge influence on the way your brain functions.
See. So a lot of those that you described are things we can control, obviously. Obviously, we need our phones. People communicate through social media, but you can reduce the time you spend on your phone. What are some things you can do to, let's just start with the phone. What can you do with the phone?
Well, use it a lot less. Yeah. Uh, yeah, and they're all, yeah, or whether on your PC or on your phone, there are all these apps where you can say, I want this amount of time maximum, and then I won't get access. So it's possible to, yeah, to set it in your settings and or install apps to move. A very important thing is also, while you're sleeping, put it in another room.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a device which radiates. Yeah, it's got GPS, it's got everything else. So that continues. Yeah. So there are, I know people who sleep with that thing on the cushion. Yeah, so very negative impact on your brain. So put it on the charger in another room.
Yeah. Or go back to traditional alarms if you need it. A lot of people say they use it for to wake them up. They set the alarm on the phone. So And like you said, people are addicted to it. They don't want to, we're the FOMO, fear of missing out. So in the middle of the night, you're afraid of missing something. And so you keep it there and then you never really get real good sleep. And I think everybody's guilty of that to some degree, some worse than others, for sure. Talk,
Yeah, but that
but
that is why I'm not saying it's like getting rid of that, because that is kind of impossible. It's like reduced use.
reduce the time. Yeah. And yeah, there are apps that I have them on the phone. They'll tell you when you want to, how many notifications you want to get, when to turn it off. So that's all just important. Part of, I guess, the next thing I was going to ask you was about the mental wellness. What are things people can do to increase their mental wellness? Because a lot of stuff you talked about right now, they can implement right away. What are some other things people can do to increase their mental wellness?
Yes, I'm happy you ask. It's number one. I'm saying be kind to yourself.
Mhm. Explain. Do you feel people are
I
not kind to themselves?
Well, I don't know about you, Clarence, but most people I talk to, they have this inner voice which is always criticizing ourselves.
Oh yeah, he's working full time in me. He don't take any days off.
Yeah, I didn't want to make an assumption, but I hinted at it. Yes, it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
He's working full time.
yeah. Well, sometimes over time, it's called the inner critic. Hmm?
Yes.
Does it make you feel better?
No.
No, it makes you feel worse. Hmm? It
Mhm.
makes you feel lousy. It makes you feel disappointed. It makes you feel a failure. And that voice is, like you said, it's always on, and it's it says to you, to Arnold, to Clarence, it says things that are worse than you would say to your worst enemy.
This is true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, if an employee of you or a colleague or made a failure and you give some feedback, you're kind of nice and polite and you put it in a way. But if you say, "Oh, Arnold, you screwed up again. That was not good. Why didn't you answer this? Oh, you got this question. You should have done this." If you would say that to a friend or to your colleague, whatever, you would be in a fight, yeah? Because they're like, "Hey, shut down, man." Huh? Yeah. So I would. That's why it sounds simple, but it's not simple because that inner critic is inside of us, well, a large part of our conscious lives,
Hmm.
and I would urge people to change that inner critic into an inner cheerleader.
I like that.
It's like focus on the things you did well.
Hmm.
Focus on the things which you learned, where you were kind to people, which worked, what you did. And they don't have to be big things. You know? It's like it can be very tiny, small things. Like yesterday, I wrote things that I had for lunch a nice salad and whatever. It's like, oh, it's great salad. It was nice, was healthy, was good. Huh? Not like, oh, there were no tomatoes and the olives were no good. It's like, it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call that stinking thinking, man. That's what you say to yourself. Yeah. Agreed.
So inner critic, move it into inner cheerleader. And start practicing. That requires practice. That inner critic, you practice that most of your life. So that inner critic is very, very experienced.
Hmm.
That's why you got to build up this habit like, hey, I got to give myself a tap on the shoulder. I got to be kind and nice to myself.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah?
Very true.
The second part, what people could do, and again, that can be small, that can be very big, is help other people. And it doesn't mean that you all have to become a nurse or it can be just help someone crossing the street. It can be helping someone to open a door when they're behind you instead of just letting it close behind you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be a few years ago that there was a man in his 80s in my neighborhood, and I mean, he had, well, that is a big problem for elderly people, is that they got, for instance, their stuff which only can be ordered online.
Yeah.
Hmm? It's no longer where they just can pick up the phone, but it's like, no, they got to go to a site. And so he had an iPad, but he didn't know how to use it. So I gave him a couple of trainings
Mhm.
just to help him to, so that he could order a taxi, so that he could order some food. Yeah?
Mhm.
And so those are small things. You can do big things, and help your community, do something in your community, do something in your city, in your gym, in at work. Help a colleague who is overloaded with work, and you have some time, and say, "Hey, is there something I can do for you?"
So, I remember a lot of times when I was in the gym actually training people, we would tell people that if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't constantly stimulate the muscles, they atrophy over time. Is that the same with our brains, our mental fitness, that we have to constantly
Absolutely,
challenge?
it's
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah, so that is why I say to people is, and there's research around it, is that you've got to work on purpose, complexity, and challenge.
Hmm.
So the last part is what you do in the gym. Is like, yeah, if you always lift this pen, it's like, you're not going to train yourself. Yeah, so you got a challenge. I mean, the same is true for your brain. You just do something which is meaningful. Do something with, yeah, but get this machine, because it's the most complicated machine in your body. Is like, challenge it, use it, yeah, instead of exactly what you said. If you don't use it, you lose it, and that's the reason why there's also an explosion. But those are also mental illness, like Alzheimer, the dementia. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's proven that if you start using your brain, and again, don't start this when you're 75.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the same for your strength training. Is
Sure.
like, yeah, preferably as young as possible, but ultimately after you're 30, because that's when it starts to decline.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Agree very. So, why do you think the challenge is so hard for people to put that correlation together? Uh, that connection between the brain and the body. Why do you think that's so difficult for some folks?
Because our society and science
Hmm.
is based on a materialistic, mechanistic view,
Okay.
which means that they see the brain as just another piece of your body,
Mhm.
and as just an organ which is just there.
Mhm.
But it's not like all the things which happen in your body that is stop here at around your neck. Is like, there's a constant interaction between your brain and your body. I'm,
Right.
well, for the audio only guys, I'm moving my arms. I cannot move my arms. It's not my arms who are moving, it's my brain who drives my arms.
Yes.
Yeah, you're nodding. That doesn't, is not your head which is nodding. It's your brain who says to your head, is like, you got to nod.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's like, well, I'm inclined to say the most important organ, but it's like, you need both. Yeah, and both need to work together. So it like, it's really strange that you only take care of everything below your neck.
So true.
Huh? But
So
you
true.
don't take care what is above you, which is basically your operating system.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. So perfect. Talk to me about neuroplasticity. What is that? For those who don't know what
That
neuroplasticity
is, and I could say an additional point to your previous question is like what people can do is that why are people not doing it? Why do they find it so difficult? Is that a lot of people think by the time they become an adult, let's say in their 20s, that their brain doesn't develop anymore. Yeah? It doesn't grow anymore. Well, I'm sure you often heard people say, that's just the way I am. Yeah? So they assume, and this has been up until the 90s, that people thought is like, no, once you've grown up, your brain is like that, and it will remain like that for the rest of your life. Neuroplasticity is that is not true. Your brain keeps on growing and developing and rewiring itself. That is neuroplasticity. So learning, you create new connections, and that can go on into your 90s. That is so. It's plastic. It grows. It changes. It happens. But if you do nothing, I'm using the word with you, it atrophies.
Yeah.
But it's neuroplasticity is like that saying, and again, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that is like, oh, it won't change anymore. That's BS. Yeah, your brain can constantly learn and grow and rewire itself.
This is correct. Yes. What are some, I think of if someone said, hey, I want to get bigger arms. Okay, we can give them things to do to get bigger arms. What if someone came to you and they said, Arnold, I really want to stimulate my brain every day when I wake up. What is something they can do?
Well, I already shared a couple of things, but the main thing is like be curious.
So about a topic, or is that more about intentions? Like today, I'm going to be intentional about X, Y, and Z. Or when you say curious, I think of thinking about something or why something is, which makes your brain think. But is that what you mean?
Well, those two things are perfect, but also like, what are bees doing? Because the bees are very important in our life for our food chain,
Yes,
for
sir.
our health, for contamination, for everything is like, and they're getting destroyed because of all the pesticides and herbicides in the atmosphere. And you could say, oh, these bees, I don't care about bees. Yeah, well, if there are no bees, you have no food, I tell you. It's like, so curious is like, how does that work with bees? And how does that work with honey? And how is honey produced or whatever? But it can be anything. Is like figuring out is like, how do they make, well, you got a nice cap on. It's like, how do they produce it? And how does that work? And how does it stay in shape? And it can be about anything. Can be about bees. Can be about baseball caps. Can be about neuroscience. It can be about learning Chinese. It can be about figuring out what is some new. Try out some new music, which you never, yeah, a genre of music you never listened to. That is what I mean with curiosity.
Okay. Thinking, which you would be surprised is of limited supply these days. People don't think anymore. They just react or they go to a tribe that's saying what they already believe. And then the other person is thinking for them. So here's what you
Yeah,
need to
that
believe.
is one of the biggest dangers. Well, it's no longer a danger; it's happening as we speak. It is like people have become consumers instead of contributors.
That's a very powerful statement. Yes, I agree with that. And then we're not critical thinkers anymore. We'd rather just be told what to believe and we just run with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely agree, Clarence. But that means we're just no more than slaves. We're just no more than obedient servants. It's like, oh, you tell me what to do. If you don't tell me anything, I do nothing. Yeah?
Yes. I was researching you, and you have a wonderful word that you use, and it's called digital dementia. And I couldn't wait to ask you about that. Digital dementia. Explain that one. I think I know what you're talking about, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, well, we talked about using your phone and social media, but it's the same with your PC, and it leads to depression and anxiety. Um, People get trouble with impulse control because they want instant gratification.
Yeah.
They cannot concentrate anymore, so they cannot focus. So critical thinking they cannot do anymore. So you might say, "Oh well, I'm 25. Dementia is for my grandmother." No, it's people in their teenagers
Yeah.
and in their teens and in their 20s who are already having this.
Yeah.
And it's a huge problem, by the way, because yeah, you already mentioned the lack of critical thinking, but it's also like everybody wants instant gratification. Yeah, it's like yeah, you swipe and but they see with their thumbs and everything. But it's like, hey, some things in life cost time and effort and energy,
Yes.
and it's not like I do this for a minute or 2 minutes. That's the TikTok thing. But it's like, hey, if you want to learn to speak Chinese, that takes time. If you want to be a great soccer player like Ronaldo, that takes time. If you want to have a body like Clarence Ferguson, that takes time. Yeah?
Good or bad? It can be quick too. Um, I think we have to really be intentional about what we watch and consume as well. You mentioned earlier, those kind of things can affect your brain health. If you watch the news and you hear something, we have to be, I tell a lot of my clients to, you do have to watch the news to a certain degree because you have to know what's going on, but you have to be very careful um, where you're getting your information from. And then you always have to ask yourself, why am I being told this? That's again, those curiosity, like you talked about earlier. Why am I hearing this message? And what is the other message? So, because a lot of people, you see them on social media, they're just mad about this and they hate this person. And all that's being dictated by someone or some forces that are, screwing with us. So, give me a couple components of the brain fitness training.
Well, there are 6 steps.
Okay.
Number one is reveal, and reveal. I will reveal the things which you just mentioned, how we are constantly being conditioned. Hmm? And so I call them, but that conditioning creates in us what I call invisible straitjackets. Hmm? It's an invisible straitjacket that you have to believe everything, that you got to do what other people tell you, that you, well, I, so, and that we basically, most people live in a cage. What do I mean by that? The cage is they got to work, yeah, so they got to have a job to earn money. Then they consume, well, you got to eat and you got to have a house. And then they go entertainment because the work is so lousy, so they look for all ways of entertainment. But then the money is gone, so they got to work again. Yeah? And that loop, that cage, creates a lot of negative behavior because they want to have more entertainment and buy more clothes and buy more shoes and buy more handbags, which means you got to work harder and which really impacts your health and everything else.
Hmm.
So that's the review. The next step is recover. People need to recover from 2 things. Number one, they need to recover from the suppression of their emotions. We all, and especially men, but it's true for women and in certain cultures even worse than for men, we're always suppressing our emotions. We're not listening to them. We're not supposed to express them. We're not supposed to do something with it. That's very dangerous. And so you need to recover from that. And addictions. I would say that most, if not all, people are addicted. Well, whether it's your phone, whether it's gaming, whether it's gambling, whether it's alcohol, whether it's porn, or worse. So we need to recover from that. The next step is we need to reactivate a lot of qualities which we have. And I mean mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, environmental, and social. Most of the time, we only use the mental part. Oh, I got to do this, I do this. But all these other aspects, we have no clue. The next step is reset. Look at things with a different lens. Look at things like not like, well, the whole world is shit, my life is shit, my partner is shit, all the things. Like, no. What can you do to be healthy and happy? And how can you help other people? And how can you contribute instead of non-stop criticizing other people?
Mm-hmm.
The next step is relearn. We got to relearn skills at school, at university, at training. We only use skills which are taught to work in an assembly line. And most people don't work in an assembly line anymore. That's what the robots do.
Yeah.
We got to learn soft skills, life skills.
Mm-hmm.
How to communicate and collaborate with other people.
Yeah.
We got to learn new knowledge. The whole world, there's things happening in the world at a very fast pace, and people have no clue what's happening. Like the AI, especially young people, everybody, oh, it's cool AI because I don't need to write my thesis anymore. If I have a question and it can write my documents and it can look at this and this, oh, it's so cool. That's one side of it. The other side of it is that what kind of thinking are you doing yourself? And if you don't practice your writing skills, soon you won't be able to write anymore.
That's true.
And, well, I won't go there in detail there, but AI can also be used to control you because AI right now, it knows everything about Clarence. It knows what you eat. It's like when you go to bed, who you meet, where you're going to, how much money you have in your bank account, what you bought. It knows everything. So it also fuels the surveillance states, and that's not nice. And the last part that's where you're also working on is your mindset. Your mindset should be shifting from being a victim, from being a consumer, towards I'm a real citizen. I'm a contributor. I'm a creator. Instead of saying, oh, that is shit and that is lousy and that doesn't work and that's a bad idea. Hey, start creating your own stuff.
Agreed.
And the last stuff is recreate your own environment. Get rid of toxic people. And most of the thing is like, yeah, and toxic people is not only, it's on the TV, it's on your social media, but it's also in your environment. It's like your friends, the people you deal with every day, and they're quite toxic and you tolerate it. But those guys continuously influence you.
Gotcha.
So it's in your environment, it's in your community, it's in your city, it's in your country, in the world, and each and every one of us can contribute rather than criticize.
I love it. So tell people where they can find you and to understand you have a masterclass that you do. Let people know about that so they can research
Yes,
it.
people can find me, Clarence, on braingym.fitness. That's my website, braingym.fitness. And I got two types of products. One are indeed the masterclasses. The masterclasses are videos. They're 90-minute videos on specific topics like emotions, like your uniqueness, like aging, like curiosity. So a lot of them we already touched upon. Say, hey, if I want to know more about them, those are videos, masterclasses, which you can buy on the website. And I have a training program where I help people, I enable people from fitting into flying out.
I love it. Love it. Well, thank you for your time. I enjoyed it. And I'll make sure that's in the link so people can find out more about it and hopefully get some brain fitness in.
Yes, absolutely. That's the way to go, Clarence.
All right. Well, thanks for being on, my friend.